Welcome into the Thunder basketball universe. The offseason is officially in full swing. So me and Nick, we decided, you know what? Let's take this time and let's go player by player. Break down their season, break down just the trajectory, really, of their careers at this point. All these guys are so young. We have a lot to break down, and we saw so much from these guys this season.
A lot to celebrate, too. I mean, These guys, they worked so hard, not just last season, but all, leading up to this point. In this moment here that we have, take time to take stock of what these guys did this year and really celebrate that and look forward to what's to come for these guys too, because there's obviously such a long runway for nearly all of them.
So for each of these guys, we have a stat of the season, not a stat of the week, a stat of the season. We have something that made us look over the course of this year. We have a you can Shai that again, and we have a bless year timeline. Me and Nick each picked one, and this is going to be a really fun way to break down each of these guys. The first guy, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and what a season he had. Number 2 in MVP voting. I mean, just an incredible season overall for SGA.
Yeah, and this is a guy that, is going to continue to put himself in that MVP conversation as long as he does the thing that's most important to him, which is win.
Yep.
And he's talked about that multiple times. He said, all of the individual stuff does not matter if we're not winning games, and all of the individual accolades that you get are a product of winning, and his priority on that is what has allowed this Thunder team to continue to make strides forward, in addition to the myriad other factors. But his leadership and his ability to set aside the fact that he could go score 40 every night if he wanted to, and to figure out how he can amplify his teammates, really, really massive.
All about the team, all about winning, SGA. And that's why he has been so successful and why this team has been so successful this season. All right, let's start with our stat of the season for SGA. Nick, what's your stat that you picked out?
Mine is just first, and that is where Shai should have finished in the All-Star. No, in the MVP voting. Just kidding. No, first is what Shai finished in terms of steals per game this season, 2.0, tied with De'Aaron Fox. Mm-hmm. He was also the first to score 2,000 points in the NBA this season. So had an incredible scoring year, had an incredible defensive year, and marrying those two things together, I think, paints a pretty good picture of what this guy was able to accomplish on the floor.
I love that the step forward that he took on the defensive end this year, and that there was a number to attribute that leap to, because so many guys on the defensive end, it's kind of ambiguous. It's like, they're really, they're picking up things quicker, and help side, or maybe they're, have a higher IQ and seeing how guys operate. But Shai, it's like that guy is really mastered being an awesome help defender, and there's numbers to back it up too.
Yeah, a tangible stat to go with it. And the cool thing, once again, is just it's a part of the Thunder's defensive scheme. It's a part of how the Thunder wants to play, and Shai an integral factor in that.
Well, I want to pile onto this a little bit because my stat kind of goes hand in hand with that. It's 8. Okay. I don't expect you to get this because I also could have put 8 different numbers in here. Okay. So 8 is the number of what I deem to be significant statistical categories that SGA reached a career high in this season.
Okay, great.
Field goal percentage, he shot 53% from the field. Field goals made, 3-pointers made, rebounds, total rebounds, steals, blocks, points, and minutes.
Wow.
Career
minutes.
highs.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
In all of those categories. And for Shai, who was already great last season, to take an even bigger step forward and even break new ground in what he's capable of just shows that this guy, and Coach Dagnall talks about it all the time, it's not like he made a massive leap. This is a result of incremental improvement. And Shai is really just addicted to getting better and addicted to improving. And these 8 categories and stats are a result of that.
What's been most impressive to me about Shai is just the incremental improvement that he's made over time, which I think has gotten more and more invisible as he's gotten better and better. I think it's easy to get awestruck by his talent and what he's accomplishing and how efficiently he does it and the place that he's carved out in the league. But, the secret behind that is very consistent work, very targeted work, and incremental improvement. And I mean, if you look back at from his first year, or 4 years ago, his defense from then to now, his style on offense from then to now. And he's now playing a style, or he's on the track of playing a style that allows his teammates to rise with him. He was always kind of there from a personality standpoint, but his style has evolved incredibly in a way that's really helped our team. He's improved his shooting. He's become more efficient. His leadership, he's made incredible improvements in so many different areas. That's what's most impressive to me. I don't see him as like star to superstar. I see him as a guy that puts his head down and improves, day by day. And the cumulative effect of that, I think where he's gotten to shows the power of that.
Shai, like we were just talking about, continues to make it easy to see some of these gains that he's making. And I think Paris, as we talk about maybe the playoff run too, Shai's been transparent about how this year is different than his past playoff experiences because of the role that he's in. I think the numbers that you referenced there are a great example of the fact that, hey, this is a guy that has had more on his plate this year than he has in any other year. That doesn't mean that he's doing everything by himself, but this is the responsibility that he has for this team, and he rose to the occasion.
And making sure that he's ready for all of that responsibility and handled it, obviously, so incredibly well this season. Let's move on to Made You Look here. I'm going to go first here because it made me smile when it happened. And we're going to flash back to the Thunder's game at home against the Utah Jazz. Nick, you're minding your own business. You're doing a walk-off interview with about 5 guys. I think J-Dub, J-Will, Adam Flagler was in that walk-off that walk-off interview. I believe Chet was there. Don't quote me on that. And you're just doing your interview out of nowhere. Here walks in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, takes the mic from you and just barks straight into the mic and walks away. Tried to walk away. The guys tried to keep him in the huddle. I just thought that was so indicative of who SGA is. When he is on the court, all business. You do not want to cross that man. He is going to get his buckets. He's going to do whatever it takes to win. But outside of that, this man is all fun and levity and joy and just fun to be around. And even surprisingly hilarious sometimes.
Yeah, it was so unexpected. And I think, this was referenced in end of season interviews too. Like Shai jokes and plays and has fun with every single guy on the roster the same way. Bismack Biyombo was able to come in as a newcomer and see that very clearly right away. And, Shai, he plays at his own pace. He does his off-court stuff at his own pace too. And, he was kind of on the periphery of some of those post-game mobs, but he wanted to bark in his way when it was his time. And so he was able to come in and that just, that set the whole group off. They thought that was so funny. And so great call by you.
I also thought it was amazing. It's like the perfect microcosm of this team, right? So Adam Flagler, who was in street clothes in this game because he's a two-way player, so he was inactive for this game, and Chet wouldn't answer the question until Adam barked, until he barked, and so they got the two-way player to bark. All right, new guy, we got him to bark. And then Chet's in the middle of his answer, and then Shai comes in, the leading scorer on this team, the number 2 vote for MVP this year, comes in and barks into the mic too. And I was just like, that's the Thunder this year. Everybody is just even across the board. No one treats each other differently, and everybody's just having a blast out there.
Yeah, and a little bit of a flair for the dramatic for Shai too. The guys have been trying to get him to bark, trying to get him to do it, and he was like, you know what, I'm going to do this on my terms, and it's going to be even better than you could have imagined.
All right, what made you look for Shai this year?
Mine was an on-court moment during the
you had
play.
Plenty of options
exactly.
for Shai.
This was his game winner in Denver.
Oh my
gosh. Just a masterclass in having the game on the line, having the ball in your hands, and having to go and make a play. I loved that Mark Daigneault didn't call timeout. The ball came to Shai, broken floor. He just assessed the situation, attacked, sped up around midcourt, decelerated, accelerated again, got to a spin, and hit at the left elbow over Peyton Watson. It was a glorious game winner. And, there's no regular season game that's necessarily bigger than another.
Yeah.
But I will say, in that moment, in that spot, from a confidence building standpoint for the Thunder and the team at that, early December stage of the proceedings, a really great moment for this team to win on the road against the defending champions. And when you're the second youngest team in the league, to be able to have that experience lined up with the many other experiences that you got, really, really special.
Honestly, we could do a whole 45-minute podcast on this game winner alone, I feel like, because there's so much to break down. And if you're a basketball junkie, if you're a basketball head, you're like, this man has such a high basketball IQ, and also the poise and composure under pressure to slow down your mind and think things through.
Right.
It would have been so easy. Honestly, if it were me out there, I would have just hit the gas and just tried to score as quickly as possible. But the way Shai just kind of measured it out, he went at his own pace, made sure that when he put the shot up, there wasn't that much time left on the clock for Denver to answer. That is just, oh my gosh, I'm out of words to describe how difficult that is to do, and he makes it look so easy.
He's a craftsman, and so all of that is work. And so, part of high basketball IQ is having thought about it ahead of time, so that when you're in the moment, you're not thinking, you're reacting. And when we talked to Shai about that shot after the game, he really explained to us that was all instincts kicking in, because he plays so much one-on-one. He dissects his game. He works on these individual moves in that, big bag that he talks about, and so that's, kind of how that all came to fruition. He's able to hit the shot and put the Thunder ahead. And the best part about it, cool, calm, poised afterward, because he knew there was still a little bit of time left on the clock.
Meanwhile, the entire bench was all of us just going crazy, jaw on the floor, just absolutely in disbelief. And Shai like, no, this job is not finished yet. The Thunder, they finished out on top of that game, but still, incredible stuff from SGA. Yeah. Okay. Let's go into our Shai that again for SGA this season, or actually from end of season interviews.
Yes.
What did you take away?
Mine was philosophical Shai, and I think sometimes like bigger picture life Shai that he likes to get to every now and then.
That ultimately, like, we all have the same goal, and all of us are selfless and want to accomplish that goal. And then I guess we just have a group of guys that are funny and good to get along with. But yeah, it's super unique. It's something I've never felt before from a basketball team. And it's hard to find, especially at this stage in your career, something I'll never take for granted.
I thought having that perspective in the immediate aftermath of a playoff series in which the Thunder and the Dallas Mavericks were exactly tied on the scoreboard was very fitting. He's recognizing, even while the wound is still raw, that they did everything that they possibly could. They did all the right things. They worked super hard, and still they didn't get the outcome that they wanted, but they can have faith that the process was right. And so when they get these wins on the margins, when he makes, the all NBA team, when he does, some of these things that are surely coming down the pipe for him over the course of his life and his career, and have already come with his all-star selections, he's, going to feel grateful for those moments of success and accomplishing some of these goals.
Shai has such incredible perspective for a guy his age and at this point in his career, because for him to say this is something you can't take for granted, we heard that from a lot of guys during end of season interviews, but these guys have such an appreciation for adversity, such an appreciation for, losses even, because they recognize the value of the lessons that come from those. And they all want to get better, and they know that in order to get better, you got to go through this stuff. So it's almost like a little bit of excitement from these guys. Like, oh, we were just in the trenches. Okay. All right. What's on the other side of this? Let's see what we can get on the other side of this. As long as we use it and we learn from it, and we can grow from it. And Shai, to be able to have that perspective immediately after probably like the most heartbreaking, moment up to that point for him in the NBA, is just like, that is so impressive.
Yeah, and that's one of the many reasons that he's a guy that everybody gravitates towards and people like being around. It's so clear that he has not just the respect, but the love of his teammates. Yeah. And I think being able to meet people on a lot of different levels, he can laugh and joke and be silly. He can also be heartfelt. And I think to be able to meet all of his teammates wherever they are is a massive skill. He flows very easily from person to person.
He really does. It's really impressive to watch, just as easily as he flows out there on the floor. All right, let's bless your timeline. Here's what blessed my timeline this year. Hold
on.
I missed my quote.
You missed your quote. Wait a second. Don't shortchange yourself.
I'm so mad I did this because I love this quote so much.
Shai is Shai, and we gotta let him be his own man. I think his is turning into a beast that we're gonna see for years. So enjoy the show.
He's going to be a beast for years. Enjoy the show. Were the words of the wise Bismack Biyombo talking about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yeah.
For a guy who didn't join this team until February,
Yeah.
to spend, a few months with Shai, and to say that, and that was like his walk-off quote in his interview too. I was like,
he dropped the mic.
you're
and
just
left
gonna
the
leave
room.
after
Yeah.
that? Oh my gosh. But it's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true. With everything that we talked about with Shai in this podcast already, how much he's improved from last year to this year, how much he desires to get better, how much he leans into adversity and challenges, how much he loves his teammates, how much he loves getting better. You can only assume that this guy is building a sustainable style of play and wants to be the best there is to be for years and years and years.
And that was one of the other things that Shai said in his end of season interview was, part of my goal in the offseason is to work on my game in such a way that it amplifies the guys around me. It doesn't suppress any of the players around me. That is a really sophisticated goal to have. I mean, most guys, they go into the offseason and they're like, how can I tighten up my ball handling? And here's Shai going into an offseason talking about, amplifying his teammates, not suppressing his teammates. That is what a beast does.
Exactly.
Is a guy that is seeing the game in terms of winning as a team, as a member of a team. Not to pile on with Bismack too much, but I think it's indicative of another aspect of Shai. One of Bismack's quotes was, your greatest challenge is your last success. And
I mean, Biz just speaks in bars.
And that sounds like something Shai would say also, despite the fact that Shai's only 25 years old. So I thought in some ways there was maybe a little Bismack wisdom that may have rubbed off on Shai over the course of the last few months.
I implore you, if you did not watch Bismack Biyombo's end of season interview on YouTube, please go check it out. There's just, I learned a lot from Biz in that one interview.
And didn't realize we'd be talking about him this much on our Shai
I
episode,
know.
but I think that also goes to show that, like, here's a guy that didn't hardly played any minutes for the team, but Shai made an impact on Bismack Biyombo in just 2.5 short months, basically.
And that's what you get when you give your entire self to the team and the betterment of the team.
Yeah.
That's what we saw from Shai this season. All right, now it is time
It's
to bless your
turn now.
timeline.
Yes.
And here's the thing that blessed my timeline this year. Seeing that Instagram post from SGA about his newborn son, Aries, right in the middle of the playoffs.
I know.
Oh my gosh. I can only imagine the emotions of Shai and his wife, Haley, and everything that went on during that time. But that just made me smile so big. Shai's a father. Shai's a dad.
Incredible. Obviously, massive congratulations to Shai and to Haley. He talked about it at end of season interviews. I'm just going to say my bless your timeline is the exact same thing as a dad.
Good.
I was very fortunate that with all three of my kids, I had at least 2 months before I had to start traveling and before the season started. I cannot imagine, having a child right in the midst of the playoffs as you're dealing with the New Orleans Pelicans and coming off that series and into the start of the series with the Dallas Mavericks. And yes, the Thunder had some time, at home in between, but the physical, the mental, the emotional roller coaster that is those first few weeks of life. And, Shai obviously is a person who takes responsibility very seriously and both in his professional and personal life. And so I'm smiling at what Shai was able to accomplish both on and off the floor and make it all seem very seamless.
Yeah, it's been amazing. A lot of learning, a lot of joy, a lot of love. It's super humbling. Puts a lot of things into perspective. Shows you what really matters in life. And kind of it takes your mind off the things that don't really matter.
There's no better bless your timeline than that,
It's perfect. It's a slam dunk.
Slam dunk. And I think that's a great way to close out this SGA pod. But before we leave, we got to give you what's coming up this offseason, something to keep your eye on for SGA. Team Canada will be in the Olympics in Paris this August, and SGA going to be on that roster, of course.
I'm super excited for Team Canada. To play with a lot of guys I grew up with. Get to play real games in the summer. That's always fun. Play for my country. Try to do something that's never been done before. Yeah, it'll be super fun.
Once again, just trying to keep
Yeah.
taking steps forward and leaps forward in his career.
Yeah, and a year removed from the FIBA experience that
Yeah.
he and Lou Dort had, the great trip up to Montreal where they were showered with love from their Canadian brethren and everybody. That was just, it's fitting that, this momentum gets to continue rolling. And Shai says those opportunities are some of the best chances for him to learn more, grow more as a player, live action against real opponents. And even Mark Daigneault said that the Thunder learned quite a bit from last year's FIBA run in terms of teams double teaming, trapping Shai all the way out to midcourt. They were able to take some of those lessons from what happened in FIBA and actually apply them to Thunder basketball in the course of the regular season.
And we can only expect that there will be steps forward come October when training camp starts. So exciting to think what this group is going to look like, and of course what Shai is going to look like, because we know that he loves being in the gym. He loves getting better. He loves improving.
He's a beast.
He is a beast indeed. But that wraps up our Shai little mini pod here. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Be sure to like, rate, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much to our producer, Matt Bishop. And until next time, Thunder up and catch you later.